Welcome to An Aries and Pisces Walk Into a Coffee Shop, the podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Bridget, she, her.
And I'm Tiffany, she, her. This is a podcast where two friends let go of perfectionism and talk unedited. You can find us at the links in our show notes.
Support the show by buying us a coffee. Also, subscribe and share this episode with a friend. Podcasting after dark.
Yes.
So you just told me that I'm good at fun.
Yeah, you are fun and you're good at delight
Thank
because
you.
the more we talk and the more I find out about these things that you do in your just day-to-day life, you're unhinged. You're just out here doing bits, making up lore, creating lists, of just nonsense.
Yeah, for context, it's my list of 10 things you won't believe about Chloe, my cat. This is all funny to me that this is coming up and this is what we were just talking about, because I was just talking about this with another friend, the concept of fun, and how lately I have been feeling like I have been really low, and I have been approaching things with trying to look at it under the lens of I am going to do this thing and it's probably not going to be as fun as typical, usual, but I am going to allow myself to have the amount of fun that I can have, and can I accept that that's okay? Can I be okay with that? That maybe I'm not having a blast. But I could just find the little pockets of yeah. And she asked me what it would look like if what would full fun look like? She's like, I know you've been struggling with this for a while, and so what would that look like if you're at the full level, full version of fun? And so then that got me thinking about oh, okay, well, what do I feel like is fun in that way? And then I realized then when thinking about the difference between fun and enjoyment, and how some stuff is maybe really fun, but some things about it is frustrating, but then I'm still looking at it as fun, but there's the learning period in something, which is the frustrating part. And I determined that for some things to be fun for me, it's I have to get through that learning period or whatever it is. I have to have established a the skill or whatever it is in some level of confidence to me, there where I feel oh, I can do this, and then I do it, and if it's a a craft or drawing or whatever, I'm making something, and then I get to make something and feel proud and excited that I made this a cute crochet thing,
Right.
And because I was also thinking about tennis. I was like, tennis is a fucking blast. I love tennis. But I do remember, especially first learning or different days you go out there and I'm just I just don't have it today. Can't hit the fucking ball no matter what. And that's really frustrating. So I was like, oh, wait a second. There's that frustrating part mixed into it. And so now I'm thinking about those things. And I was also thinking about the things that I do in my life that aren't necessarily fun, but I get a benefit from it. And so I keep doing it, going for walks. I was like, are walks fun? And I was like, no, walks are not fun. And I was like, well, I at least enjoy the walk. And I was like, no, not really. I don't. But I know that I get a lot out of it. And so I continue doing it. And so then that got me thinking of incorporating more fun into the things that I'm doing that aren't necessarily fun. And I don't know what that looks like, But I always think that I find it really fascinating when you sit here and tell me, like, Bridget, you're so fun. You're unhinged. You're doing all these things. And I think like I know that I have that.
Mhm.
And I think I'm trying to figure out how to broaden it or bring it
Okay.
into the things that maybe I am not understanding how to like incorporate that into.
It's so interesting to hear you say because I feel like you're incorporating it all the time. Like we just talked about, you
Oh,
just make this list the way you talk about your cat that you call like discussions discos.
well, because I had to do that because they had to be more fun. So yes, that I intentionally
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
named
oh, you're
that.
working on that, you're doing it. And so it's
Oh, this
like
is good. This is
interesting to
good.
hear that you're like feeling like it's not
Mm,
what you have been doing.
like cat litter is called glitter.
Right.
Like I literally every time I have to say that word out loud, I have to really think about it because glitter is the word.
Right.
Because that sounds more fun
Yeah, it does
than
sound more fun.
scooping litter if you're scooping glitter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why I'm surprised to hear you say that. And even like your roller skating practice, like you talked about just enjoying it to enjoy it, not to be good at it. Do you remember
What?
that saga?
No. No.
Because when you were rollerblading, it was frustrating. And we went through an entire era of you saying that you're not roller skating to get good at roller skating. Like you're just going to do it. And maybe you'll be bad forever and you're going to decide that's okay. You don't remember any of this?
My God, no.
This is incredible.
I
Because
wonder
that was
if it
fun. Because you were
I
just like, I'm
wonder
just going to have fun because if I'm trying to be good at it, then I'm frustrated and I'm not having fun. So you're like, this is my fun practice. And you
yeah,
talked
I
about,
did I talk this one person in particular is coming up in my head
mm-hmm,
who I put them on my like fun archetypes board.
mm-hmm,
Who she is a roller skater in Germany, I think. But her whole thing is that she's bad. She's
yes,
bad at it.
you have sent
Yeah.
me a reel up from her before.
Okay. And
Yeah.
she had, but like she has all the things. Like she's
Mm-hmm.
got like multiple pairs of like fancy skates and all the fun stuff that goes with it. And she's all about just like, she fucking loves it. She's all about it. And like there was me thinking like, oh, I'm not like a real good skater. Who am I to have like a
Yeah, you
good
had to
pair of
earn.
skates or whatever? Yeah. And so like watching her did feel very freeing. I wonder if it was like that, like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was part of it. But you specifically were talking about it being fun and just like allowing yourself to enjoy it for enjoyment's sake and not as a task of like having to get better or something.
Mhm. That's interesting to me now because I think like the picture that I have in my head is that this all came from when I went skating the other weekend and I barely had any energy at all. I basically sat down almost the whole time.
Yeah.
Um, and that's when I was saying out loud, like, or like saying, like, can I just let this, like, can I just get out of it what I'm getting out of it? And then I'm thinking about like how I think about skating. And then I'm like, well, like skating is fun, but it's also not like, that's not like a full fun thing for me, like tennis is, because skating, I am like, there's that like fear factor present where like I
Sure.
still do not feel stable and confident on my skates.
Yeah.
And that to me, like it just feels like danger like the whole time. And so it's like, yes, parts of this are fun, but I'm also contending with like all of that as well. And so I guess, yeah, just trying to find the fun parts in it. Which I showed you a picture of my skates with the little puff balls on them.
Yeah.
So ridiculous. My partner's aunt got them for me after Christmas last year. it's a white puffball, and as if that wasn't bad enough to put on like the toe of your skate, as if that wasn't bad enough, it has a jingle bell in the center of it.
I don't think I realized
So
it had a
they
bell.
they jingle. Um, and I put them on my skates because I was like, what else am I supposed to do with these? Like, I guess I have to put them on and at least like give them a whirl. And they're ridiculous. And I guess there's that like whimsy of like,
Mm-hmm.
this is ridiculous. And I love that. I don't know that I love them, but I love that it's ridiculous.
Right.
And then I have all of these really little girls coming up to me and being like, "I love your skates."
It's
And
so
like,
cute.
here's my like, my whole setup is black.
Yep.
Like it's a black boot, black wheels, whatever. I'm wearing like an all black outfit. And then there's just this little white jingly puffball on the end. And they're like, "I love your skates." And I'm like, "Oh."
That's cute.
And somebody, like a grown man, called them my bunny skates. He's like, "I like your bunny skates." And I was like,
Yeah.
"That's sweet." Like it like a bunny tail. It's not on the back of the skate though, but I was like, I of course like that because of bunnies.
Yeah, you do love bunnies. You are a bun.
Can I tell you something else? I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I all of a sudden just had a lot to pour out.
Yeah, tell me more. I love this.
Um, well, I've got
Yeah.
this little peep here. It smells. It's got like scented beads in it or
Okay.
something, and the tag said that it was marshmallow scented. And I was like, I don't know about that, but maybe if I leave it out long enough, it'll like air out. But I was thinking the other day as I'm walking through TJ Maxx, which by the way, now every time I think about going to TJ Maxx, I think of that reel that we were talking about. And I'm like, I would like to shut down inside of the home goods section
Mm-hmm.
before Easter, which is when all the bunnies are out.
Mm.
This is the best time for me to go to stores because there's bunnies everywhere. So while I'm not a huge fan of Easter, I am a huge fan of seeing bunnies everywhere. And I got real sad because I was thinking like, oh, I think I'm like a lot of like nostalgia stuff is hitting
Mm.
me, and especially like, I could tell you why later.
Okay.
But when I did the whole like minimalism purge
Mm.
and I like got rid of so much stuff and I got rid of my most of my collection of bunnies
Mm.
from when I was little. I did keep, my one bunny from when I was a baby and then like a couple of their little ones. Um and I just like got real sad about that.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And but then it occurred to me as I've got this little peep here. I'm about to get a gigantic peep for my birthday.
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking about the bunnies that I have in
Mm-hmm.
here, right? Like I've got a little ring holder that's a bunny. I've got my little namaste bunny that you gave me. And like I have like a very special little collection in here now. And I'm like, oh, wait a second. I think that's more special because none of those bunnies that I had, like, what would I do with them? I'm like, I wouldn't want to like set them out anywhere. I kept the one
Oh.
that I did, and like I do have it in here. And so I'm like, I think it feels more special now at this point in my life to be like, oh, this is something that brings me joy? Is this something that I want to like re-up in my life? And now I get to do it in like an intentional way that matches my life now. And that feels more special, I think,
Oh.
than having kept those old ones.
Yeah, which is kind of the whole point of the idea we had about mm, intentionality of not accumulating just for accumulation's sake, but like actually making it count.
Hmm.
That's a really sweet way, like full circle of being like, oh yeah, here we are. You did it. I'm going to have to chew on that because there are things over the years I've had to get rid of or I chose to get rid of. And some things I'm still holding on to. And I think I want to hold on to that thing that you just said, where it's just like the intentionality. Because it does make space, right? Like if you hold on to everything, then you don't have space for the things that you actually do want to bring in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I like that. That's a good lesson.
Then my other question was, how many bunny peeps is too many to have in one room?
I think when it starts feeling um I I'm never worried about you getting to that point.
Yeah, I
Because
think
you'll
that
know.
I think that I thought that, but then I answered myself very quickly, because I have Wonky Bunny in my tree, which is the felt peep that I made.
Mm-hmm.
And Wonky is very, very special to me. And then I got this little blue peep in a little mystery egg at the thrift store. And then I'm getting that gigantic one for my birthday. And then there were these other like medium size ones. And I think like when I thought about that, of like, do I need these like medium size ones? And I thought about my space and I was like, no, I
Yeah,
don't.
see, I'm never worried
I
about that with
so
you.
yeah.
Because you have very hard
I
and fast, like, thresholds where it's
but it
just,
was like like I look at it and I love it and I want it. And but I guess yes, then this is that discernment practice that I have been putting in place
mm-hmm.
for years where I'm like, I know I love it. I know it's the cutest thing I've ever seen in my fucking life. And I feel like I really absolutely need to have it, but like, do I actually? And then that very easily was answered. No.
I have, okay, yes. And another step forward, because something else just popped in my head.
Yeah.
You're like, do I need this medium peep? And you're like, no, I don't. But you really want it. And what if then you got something you actually do need, like an extra throw blanket?
Oh shit.
You know what I mean?
Okay. I know what you mean. And
Mm-hmm.
oh geez. Um yeah. I think this is answering questions in my head about somebody else in my life. And their brain, maybe. But for me, I'm like, okay, peep, love it. Absolutely great. Do I need it? No, and I'm okay with that. Uh then instead, blanket. Do I need it? Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I
You've been talking
absolutely
about
need a
it for a
blanket.
while.
Yeah. Um, but in my head, those things are like not. I'm like on this is my brain is on bunny track and that's it. And you're talking blanket track and that's something else entirely.
But they're like probably in the same area, like of
Yes,
the
but
store. Like you turn around and there's going to be blankets. And then
yes,
you
but
could
I'm
touch
looking
the
at the
one that
peep,
makes you feel
but I haven't found it.
okay.
Like I'm looking at Peep, right? And I'm holding it. And I'm like, yes, you're perfect and you're cute and you're amazing and you're wonderful. But then I go to the blankets and I don't find that blanket. And the blankets cost a lot more than the Peep.
Okay, well, yeah, there's that. Okay,
and
fine.
and also here's the other thing that I am contending with,
Mm-hmm.
that I am like wondering about, that I've realized. So at least I've realized it. Is that right? Like I have my blanket that is on the couch. I have my blanket that is here in my office. Neither of them are really working for me. Um, and I would just need like another blanket. Um, but I think my like the frame of reference in my head is the comfort and the knowing of these blankets. And so when I'm like finding another blanket in
Mm-hmm.
the store, well, it's not my blanket and it's different than my blanket. And I'm unsure that I'm going to be okay with it and I'm going to like it. And I think that what my brain is doing is that it's just telling me that my blanket at home is familiar
You're right.
and that is what I think I want in my head. But like if I think about it, the only reason I have this blanket behind me is I was walking through IKEA one day and I was freezing cold and I picked it up, put it around my body, and then I just bought it.
Not very
And then
intentionally chosen.
I and then the other blanket on the couch, I've had for years because I didn't have a suitable blanket. I just had this tiny little dinky thing. And so my partner's mom just went out and bought me a blanket that I never would have picked out in a million years, like for any reason.
I have one of those. I have
And now
a
it's
few
the
of those actually.
so like so now I'm like, okay, well, Bridget, like, and I'm seeing this for like other things in my life too, where I'm having a hard time replacing something or bringing in a new something because
Mhm.
it's not this one that I have. But I'm like, you're gonna get used to it, and like if you really don't like the blanket, then get rid of it and try a different one.
Yeah, is there a thing about like choosing wrong in there? Like you have to make the most perfect
I think
decision.
so. Yeah, that's I mean that yeah, it's definitely part of it for sure.
Okay. So what if?
Wait, can I tell you what if too?
Yeah.
We did buy a new couch blanket.
Mhm.
Turned out being terrible. It wasn't machine washable, and the
Oh.
material it was made out of, Zero would like lick it. It like came undone, and then he was like eating it in not on purpose, and I was like, this has to go immediately in the trash. Um, and then we bought another one, but the size of it, it was actually like a bed blanket,
Oh.
so it was just absolutely too much for the couch. Like, because it was like this double lit. It takes up almost our whole king size bed. It was too much for the couch. But that turned into now that's the blanket we have on our bed, which we also needed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have done that, but then it's
It's
like,
good data. Now
yeah,
you know that material and also to
right,
check if it's machine washable
right,
and the
right.
size. Look at all this criteria you're figuring out
Yeah.
to make your home nice and cozy.
Yes. It all feels so hard.
It is. That's why it feels that way.
And it feels like it shouldn't be, though, is the other thing that's like in my head.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot. The why is this so hard? And I've landed on it's ableism,
Hmm.
which just is white supremacy dressed up in a different outfit, I think. And so I've been thinking about that a lot. And right
Hmm.
now, it's helping in the sense of it's stoking my injustice flames. So I'm
Mm.
not feeling like it's a personal character flaw slash failure on my part. But now I'm smacking my face up against the grief part of like, oh, but like this is just the structure I live in.
Yeah.
So I think it's growth, but I've been pretty low lately because every time I'm having a hard time and I feel like I shouldn't have to have a hard time, that anger flares and then the grief just like comes in to smother it. And then I'm just like, well, now what? And then I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, well, it's just you do the best you can and you lay down and then you get up and then you just keep on figuring out
Yeah.
how to make it
Yes.
bearable.
And then this is where I am like, I have to have as much fun as I possibly can in every like moment and day of my life because otherwise all of it's
Yeah.
yeah it's all of that and I think that's what has really led me to the like holding on to and trying to cultivate the joy and the fun because I'm like I'm right there in all of that and I'm like how the fuck else are we supposed to get through.
Yes, agreed. And a lot of my friends are talking about similar things, like friends and like community folks. The idea of like joy is resistance. And it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, we fight and we grieve and we educate and we like unveil the things that people have been ignoring. And then we fucking go dancing and have fun and cook dinners for each other. And make up songs
Mhm.
about cats,
Yeah.
dye our hair or whatever, because
Yeah.
we just need a little bit of joy.
Mhm. Yes.
And that does help because it mm, when I feel my body like grinding to a halt, what actually it was my partner that reflected this back to me recently, and that felt really felt like a good compliment. I needed to see it in a slightly different way because I was having, let's just call it a meltdown about not having enough energy. And this is a
Mhm.
common thing in my life. Oh, I don't have enough energy. And I'm always really panicked about my energy. And I was just feeling a lot of grief about how things that are expected of adults to have a living wage feel inaccessible to me. And I'm trying real hard.
Mhm.
And I'm just so tired. And I'm like, okay, well, is it just always going to be like this? So that's like where I was at, where I'm like, I don't have enough energy. I'm never going to have enough energy. And it's just always going to be like this. And then my partner just very, like, was listening and validating. And then just like really matter of factly was just like, I see how you light up and get energized when you're doing the things that you love to do. So you're doing this right now to set yourself up to have more
Mhm.
time to do those things. You always have energy for those things.
Mhm.
And I forgot that about me. Because I kind of had it in my head of like, oh, I'm going to have to do capitalism forever and get ground down and never have energy for anything I actually want to do. And then my partner was like, no, you're doing this temporarily to set yourself up so you can do those things that you always get energized by.
Mhm.
And that was a very helpful frame that I needed because they were right. I had a very busy few weeks. I started a brand new job, so I've been training. And all at the same time, I had all these creative obligations I had already said yes to when I thought I was going to have all the time in the world.
Mhm.
And I did them. Those creative things I did well. I was exhausted, but I managed it. I had fun doing them. I'm still recovering, and I
Mhm.
suspect I will be for a little while longer, but it made it feel less of a one size scenario and like, oh no, this is like dynamic. It shifts, it changes. I shift and change. And things aren't always an energetic output. Sometimes they energize you back. And I'm trying to anchor into the things that energize me.
Mhm.
And today was a little better because, yes, capitalism's hard and I don't like capitalism's rules. But the work I'm doing now feels anchored in a thing that I care about a lot.
Mhm.
And that is energizing. Where I'm like, oh, and that reel you sent me about learning something and how frustration's part of learning and framing frustration as a thing to celebrate because it means that you are in fact exercising that learning muscle because I really needed that pep talk because I'm very frustrated a lot of the time right now.
Yeah, same. So, you didn't send that to me?
I thought you sent that to me.
I think then
We
my
talked
mom
about it.
did my mom send that to me?
You didn't tell me, but maybe.
Maybe.
I'm
I
pretty sure you sent that to me
okay.
because I have a
Well, then I'm
memory of
thinking like
telling my
who
partner,
sent it
Bridget
to
sent
me?
this to me, and I can't
Okay.
stop thinking about it because I made them watch it and then they asked me to send it to them.
Yeah, somebody else literally just mentioned that video today.
It really
And
helps.
this wasn't even recent.
No, that was a while ago.
um
And I also remember it wasn't me because I remember when I was watching and I was like, oh, I love this woman. I love how she explains things. Who is this? And then I looked at the name and I was like, oh, yeah, I love this woman. I've heard her interviews. I think on
mm,
We Can Do Hard Things, probably.
okay.
And I was just
Okay.
like, oh yeah, I do like her. I can't remember her name right now, but uh, I think that that experience wouldn't have happened had I found it, because it delighted me. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you sent it to me. I guess we could
Okay.
fact check it if we really wanted to see whose memory's doing what. But
um, yeah, I think I'll have to watch it again. But I'm really liking this framing of things because I think that I've also been thinking about things similarly
mm,
in that I have been trying to like focus on having a job that is, financially like got me steady and stable in life so that I am able to free up my creative mind to do my hobbies and my joys and the things that I enjoy, right? But I'm like, I guess feeling, I don't know, I don't know how to phrase it, like at odds with that because I feel like, okay, well, I'm still not there in the money stability part. So like, and I'm still just like, I am exhausted all the time. And like, I feel like maybe almost like, oh, I can't have more energy to do the things that I like. And I'm like trying to figure that out. But I'm like, well, I can't because I'm not like stable yet and whatever. But uh I am still doing those things
mm-hmm.
that I'm enjoying, right?
Yep.
And even today, as I'm thinking about it, I was like particularly exhausted today. Excuse me. And I was like, oh, well, I have this podcast like later with Tiffany. It's at a later time than we usually do. And I'm like, I'm not sure that I have the energy for this. And then I reminded myself what I remind myself, I've said this before, but I'm like, no, this is one of those things that is life giving. And even if, we show up to this and we're like, we've intended to record a podcast, but we're, like we don't have the energy, we're still going to sit here and be here for each other. And I was like, okay, either way, that's what I need right now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, if I cancel this, what the fuck else am I going to
Yes, I had this exact same thought
do?
process as I was laying immobile, unable to get off this couch for almost an hour. Like I laid down and I was like, I'm just going to do a short meditation and then up and at 'em. And then my alarm went off and I'm like, that's not going to happen. I'm going to nap and then I'll get up and at 'em. And I took a nap and then I was just like, I can't move. So then I did another meditation and then I couldn't move. And then I just kept on telling my alarm to keep on adding time to the alarm until I was like, okay, look, you really need to get upright and grab your laptop, because you know that once you're talking to Bridget, you'll feel better. And worst case scenario, you stare at Bridget and go, I have no words. I have nothing here. And then I would be looking at your face and now your cute little sweater. And that would be better than just laying immobile in the dark on
Yeah.
my couch.
Well, I'm glad that we chose each other. And also, can I say that the phrase up and atom in my head is like up and like Adam, like the man Adam, like
Ew.
ADA.
I don't want to be up and at 'em.
And and I'm like, I know that it's like up and at like apostrophe EM, like, get up again. But in my head, it's Adam.
Yeah, that seems right for you.
I don't like it.
Yeah, of course you don't. It makes me think of I sent you that reel about the woman explaining literal thinking, but like
Yeah,
different
listen, that
examples.
changed my life. That changed my life. I saved it. It's in my Notion inbox with notes to take it to my therapist.
Oh, great. I have been re-listening to it over and over again because I actually had like a therapist friend tell me, they're like, I don't see the literal thinking for you. Like maybe I'm just thinking about it wrong. Like what's your internal experience? And I was like, yeah, I know. I don't think I am either. And then like the more, and that was months and months ago. This was a long time ago. It was warm then, like a lifetime. And I the more I thought about it, I was like, oh, it's the black and white thinking I have, or that thing where I just cannot understand how people could be like lying about things, or I get really like uncomfortable when people say things in a hyperbolic way. And not all the times, because I love being hyperbolic. I'm very dramatic. But like, yes, Bridget?
What is hyperbolic?
Hyperbolic is like exaggerated. So when it's like, oh, I literally slept 100 years, when they really meant that they just slept
Oh,
like a full night and maybe
okay.
then some. And
Okay.
that doesn't upset me necessarily, but I'm trying to come up with an example that has upset me. And of course, they're all running away as I'm trying to look at them. But the example the woman used in her video was, whenever someone says, "Can I pick your brain?" she then has to make the joke, "Oh, that sounds uncomfortable," because literally every time she gets an image in her head of someone actually picking her brain, and
Yeah.
she makes the bad joke, I think is what she says. She's like, "It's not a good
Uh-huh.
joke," but I have to say that because I literally have to think that first. Like, I know what
Mhm.
it means, and I'm
Mhm.
able to like engage with the person on what they're saying, but I have to get over that visual first.
Yeah.
And it just really opened up all the ways in which I didn't know where some of the disconnects between me and other people were.
Mm. Mhm.
And it's making me feel more compassionate, I think, towards
Mm.
myself for how anxious I've been for like social scenarios, because I used to really beat myself up of like, why does it seem so easy for people just to be in the world and interact? And I think that I've spent a lot of my life really confused and frustrated. So like, of course, that landed me in anxiety land.
Mhm. Yeah, same. I yeah, I really liked that. I really resonated with that video. And I thought that it was great because I had just retaken all of those online autism quizzes
Yeah, the different
that you had,
assessment tools.
yeah, that you had sent me. And I took a note after taking one of them that literally says, I hate this so much. Like, I hate these questions so much because it was like questions like that. Like, one of the questions was, like, do you under it was something like, do you understand what it means when somebody says like he wears his heart on his sleeve
Mm-hmm.
or something? It's like questions like that, and I'm like, what the fuck, this is so I was like, I mean, like, I was like, yeah, like, I know what that means, but then as this woman is explaining that, and I thought straight back to that, and I was like, oh, literally the first thing that happens in my brain when somebody says that is, well, I picture like a man's like business shirt, long sleeve. Like, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's where I go. And then I have to figure out
You've
the
learned.
you're right. Yeah, I've learned what that means, but I have to like figure it out in my head first. I don't
Mm-hmm.
just get there, and especially like I there are a lot of things that I feel like they just like go straight over my head, and I'm just like, wait, what? Or like there will be a lot of things where like my partner and I are watching on TV or in a movie, and I'm like, wait, pause. I was like, what did they say? Can you explain that to me? Or
Mm-hmm.
like, can you rewind? I need to hear it again. Or like, I need to hear it slower. And I'm like, what is the, like what? And I'm like, I did it. I, I guess that it's just I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, I've just felt stupid. But, like, I know that I'm not stupid, and I have had, like, so much during, like, so much of my life, I have felt so fucking stupid, and I have had just all these people being like, "Bridget, you're, like, one of the most intelligent people that I know," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "I just don't understand. I can't get it. I don't know."
Mm-hmm.
Is it maybe it's a curse to be intelligent and have all these issues?
Yeah,
Because
because you know
I
what you don't know, which means you think you don't know anything, or enough. You don't think you know enough. And this goes to that other thing that we talk about, that like goalpost moving thing. And I do think sometimes it has something to do with that literal black and white thinking thing. And like, I logically know that smart people don't know everything, or not. It's smart people. It doesn't mean that everything comes easy to them. But every time something doesn't come easy, or I find something I don't know, I panic thinking, okay, well, that must just mean I'm an idiot then. And that goes back to that reel you sent me about the learning frustration thing, because she said that there's this gap where it's just like, if you have your identity based on knowing stuff and you find stuff you don't know, or you're aware that you don't know things, then you don't get to be the identity of someone smart who knows stuff. And I'm just like, oh, that's why I have been beating myself up this whole time. It was a processing error. And it felt so silly because I don't think that about other people. But like, I had this standard for myself that I wouldn't assign to others. Because I know like curiosity and a willingness to find out is what I like about people.
Yeah.
Or I think that makes people smart when they're like wanting to learn
Yeah.
stuff and they're like, oh, I haven't heard that word. Let me go learn how it's pronounced and like figure out how to say it in a sentence. Like, I think those people are brilliant. And yet, I think it's society's fault.
Yeah, I think so
That's
too.
not my voice. I think that got
I
implanted in there.
yeah, I'm also thinking about me, like raising my hand and being like, what does that mean? And like
Mm.
I have gotten a lot better at doing that rather than just, before I would just keep going and just pretend like I knew what was going on.
Yeah, same.
Um,
I've done that.
yeah, but now I'm like, oh, well, I want to know. So I would rather just like ask. And I've had to practice that.
Yeah, I've also had to practice asking things. It's gotten easier the more I'm surrounding myself with people that are similar, where like they just ask things that they don't know. And it's been making me feel safe to do the same when something comes
Mhm.
up that I don't know. And it's been really nice because I haven't always had that in my close vicinity. And then lately I'm finding more and more I do. And that's been
Mhm.
lovely. And also, I know a lot of people that just know a lot of things about subjects that I just never cared to learn about,
Mm.
or like just don't make a lot of sense to me. Like gaming, for example. Like, I know quite a bit about games because I've been around gamers, but there's certain things that I'm just like, I don't know what that means. I've never thought to learn about it. And so, like, I'll have a couple of friends like kind of going off about something and they'll like try to include me. And I'm just like, I just don't have any idea what you're talking about right now. And it's so freeing to just, because like I think a past version of me would have been trying to like keep up and like learn on the sly, where I'd be like trying to pick up all the clues and put it together myself and being like, well, maybe I'll look that up later. So like next time I don't feel like an idiot when they turn to me and like try to include me and I just don't know what's going on. Now I'm just like, I don't know about that. Big Dad.
Yeah. That sounds like most conversations that my partner has with me.
Look,
But
gaming's a language, okay?
yeah, but he also knows that like I don't know. So some things he will just go ahead and explain, or I mean, yeah, I just cut in and I just ask, or yeah.
Yeah, it's getting easier now that I'm practicing with people that feel cozy and safe to like now practice with people I maybe don't know as well.
Mhm.
And luckily in the communities that I'm in, even people I don't know that well, there is a rapport there that it's been easier to practice. And what I'm hoping is that that'll just continue to ripple out so that I'll be more and more at ease around people that maybe I'm like just encountering. Because I notice when I first meet people, especially like in like group settings, I find that like masks start coming up a lot more where I'm like, mm, it feels more like pretending instead of just authentically reacting I'm like, it takes me a couple of beats to have an actual genuine reaction because like the mask is there first to be like, pretend
Mm.
like you know what they're saying and pretend you heard what they said when you obviously didn't process anything that they just said.
Yeah.
That's a hard one.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I think I love when we talk about this stuff where I'm like, "Oh, this is where like the freedom is." Because I'm thinking about like, some interactions with another friend that I also do this with, and I'll straight
Mm,
up, say to her like, I didn't hear you, or like I only heard part of that. Can you start over? Or like what like she'll text me something and I'm like, what did you mean by that? And instead I would have just like ignored it or whatever and like gone on. But when I ask her questions like that, then she comes back to me with such like a more well-rounded, it's like we like get to like know each other
yeah.
better and get to have like more deeper of a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh fuck, when I don't ask questions, we're both missing out
Yeah. Because it's a lack of
on
connection then.
yeah.
Because there is a disconnect and the other person might not know it. So they're thinking, oh, we're all on the same page. And you just don't even know where the book is.
Right. Yeah, and it's like, and I think like so much that goes on internal in my head is
Mm,
like, oh, like they're gonna think that I'm like dumb, or they're gonna think that I'm rude
yeah.
for asking this, or they're gonna, think like, why don't you know what I'm talking about? Like that kind of a thing
Yep.
is often in my head. Um, and that is it's never the case. If somebody asks me for clarification, I'm like, yeah, I'm happy to give it to you.
Mm-hmm. Ooh. And another layer that I've been finding out lately is that when I'm doing that, sometimes someone will ask me a question that not only allows them to get to know me better, but allows me to get to know me better.
Mm.
Because the more I'm asking or clarifying or unmasking, having genuine reactions, it's allowing me to put pieces together that I would have just ignored. I'm like, oh, that felt uncomfortable and I don't know why. And I'm never going to look at it again. But the more curious I'm getting, I'm like, oh, that's good data to have about me. And I didn't like fully understand that about myself until someone else thought to ask or like clarify
Mhm.
what they were thinking. And I'm like, oh, isn't that interesting that that's what they meant? And the way I interpreted it was so unclear. And I was like, where's that coming from? And that's like an interesting thing to unpack as well. And I think it's
I love your like thinking processing face. I'm like, I can't wait for whatever comes next. I see like the gears moving.
I'm nervous to see that back. And it just popped into my head. I think it's also been helping me be a lot more compassionate to a smaller version of myself because I spent so much time feeling so wrong. I felt
Hmm.
so isolated and confused. And now I'm realizing a lot of it was because I learned early on that it was rude to ask for clarification or I had to take things at like face value. People would lie a lot. And I, as a kid, I just couldn't quite make those pieces go together. So then I just kind of swung in the opposite direction where now as an adult, I'm having to unlearn my suspicion because my first reaction is constantly to be like, well, what did that mean? And like look for the like passive aggressive or the underlying something. Because like from childhood all the way into adulthood, being around people that communicate in toxic styles, now I'm like, oh, I have to recalibrate because now I'm around all these safe people and I can still feel in my body this like protector mechanism pop up and being like, well, what did they mean by that? And then I have to be like, we could just like gently with curiosity and without having a whole upset, just find out. Because, like, best case scenario, they tell you and it's not what you thought. They tell you and they lied and you'll know because you're an adult now. And, or they won't have a good answer. And now you know that person isn't someone you should be investing your time and energy in. If they were, in fact,
Yeah.
being cruel or.
Right. And if they weren't, then it's all, you know, just like, oh yeah, here's what this was. Yeah. Like I definitely have something similar that I'm like always questioning, like, what's your angle? Like, what do you actually want? Like, what are you trying to manipulate out of me? Like, what do you,
Mm,
like that kind of
yeah, I think that there's a bit of that. And unfortunately, it's just like fact as like femmes, people are trying to get stuff from us a lot. And unfortunately, with interactions with people I don't know well, I'm finding that to be the case a lot where I'm like, oh, I thought you just like liked talking to me. And now I see that you're like angling for something. That
hmm.
sucks, but it's good data. And then the other thing is I have been hyper vigilant about like whether or not people are making fun of me and what
Hmm.
that means if they are. Like I watch friends of mine be able to tease each other and have a really nice time with that, and I can't be teased because I'm hyper vigilant about like, well, what does that like? Do you actually like me? What does that mean? Do you think I'm bad? Like, are you understanding me correctly? Are you putting something on me that's not how I think of myself? And I get like really upset when I think
Yeah.
someone's perceiving me in a way that I don't perceive myself.
I also think that I can't be teased. This is a hard thing that I have like with my partner, and where like he does a lot of like self-deprecating stuff that I like, I'll dish it back out to him and then I'll be like, I didn't actually mean that. Like, and I'm like, I don't actually feel that way about you. Like, I'm just saying it because you say that. And like,
You're like, I'm
but
being
like,
funny.
but yeah, but then I can't handle it. And I can't
Yeah.
handle it like when he does it either. And I've had to like shut it down coming towards me because I'm like, I can't, you, no, it's too, I'm too sensitive.
Yeah, same. And it's, I mean, a lifetime of, yeah, being told I was something in a negative way. And so now I'm hyper conscious of it. And I really struggle, even when it's like a nice, safe person that I know is funny, if they say something about me that feels like, oh, they're making fun of me. I have to go through a little mini spiral. And I'm unpacking that because I don't like that about, I don't like that. It's just not a good feeling to like look at someone that I care about that I know likes me and then have this like clanging bell in my head that goes, are you making fun of me?
I like this is so I think I do this all the time with my partner. Like he'll be laughing and I'm like, "What are you laughing at?"
I do this
And
too.
he's like, "You." And I'm like, "What do you mean you're laughing at me?" And he's like, "You're funny." And I was like, "What did I do that was
Oh
funny?"
my God,
Like
Bridget,
and he
this exact
it's this
scenario.
whole
You said that. That's the script. That's my script.
Oh
I
no.
go, what?
That's exactly
And then I
that's
get,
it.
and there's sometimes I can guess like what was funny, but there's a lot of times where I'm like, no, I need you to break down piece by piece what you thought was funny for my own sanity. I need you to tell me exactly what's happening because I need to know if
Oh.
you're making fun of me or.
I guess I didn't realize that this is what this is. Yeah, that happens all the time.
I need a lot of
And
reassurance.
I'm like, well, going back to the beginning, like I like being fun and funny and doing silly things and laughing and I love that. Like, I'd love to be funny. Like, I'd love for you to be, like, laughing at the things that I'm doing, but, like, maybe, like, not when I'm not realizing that I'm doing it, you know? Like,
Yeah, because
that's
that's the
the
difference. Because if I'm
that's
doing a bit, I know I'm doing a bit, but sometimes I'm
yeah.
like earnestly reacting or saying something and it strikes someone as funny. And then I panic thinking like I did something embarrassing. I'm afraid of being embarrassed.
Uh, I'm even thinking to when, like, you have told me this about, like, the way that I say things, like, I say things in a funny way.
Hmm.
And that to me is like part of that because I'm like, I don't know that I'm doing it. I'm just saying it. Like I'm just, like expressing whatever is coming out. And I'm like, what do you mean that's funny? Like, what do you like? What about it is funny? But also, like, then can I bottle that up in an essence to use?
Yes. I have been thinking about this a lot because I cannot remember where I heard this, but I remember someone talking about how a lot of comedy is just subverting the expectation. So, like, we expect people to say or think about things in a certain way, and comedy comes from the idea of giving the person the unexpected,
Yeah,
and that strikes us as funny.
yeah.
And I've been thinking about that a lot about how I say things or react to things because I think that people expect one track. And then when us neurodivergent, with all the diversity
Mhm.
we have of how we think about things, like veer off in a different direction, it does strike people as funny because like all of us have learned similar societal scripts from movies and the neurotypical capitalist whatever, and so we know like how it like might go or should go, or like how adults normally would talk if they were neurotypical and from the 50s. I don't know. And so like sometimes that makes it a little easier for me where I'm like, oh yeah, you're laughing because you didn't expect my brain to go there or
Hmm.
for me to say something this way. Hmm. An example. One time I teased a friend because so one of the things that I've learned about myself is that in order to connect with people, sometimes I'll adopt the way they communicate to communicate with them. So I would typically not make a certain face or say a certain thing. But if I know that they'll think it's funny, I'll do it to make them laugh. But it's not my brand of humor and it's not like a genuine thing for me, but I want to connect with them. So one time I did that and I made like a pretty stinging, like teasing joke to something someone said. And they still to this day will tell people that story because they thought it was the funniest thing because they didn't expect that to come from me. And it's because it didn't come from me. It came from them and I was just reflecting it back because I knew that they would think that was funny. And when they
Mm.
tell the story, every time they tell it, it sounds less and less like me. I'm like, and you're sure that was me? Because I don't have a clear memory of doing it. But it does sound like something I would do. Like if I thought you thought it was funny, I would say that or do something with my face or body to communicate that with you. But like they just out of the blue will tell new people that I just met like this story about how hard I made them laugh that one time. But it doesn't sound like me because it's actually kind of mean. But like they loved it so much. And that's comedy, baby.
I yeah, I get. Uh,
And then I have to be like, are you making fun of me? Are we okay? Do you like me? And then I'm trying to defend myself, and that friends is like, no, no, no. It was the best thing that's ever happened. Stop. So, just working on some childhood wounding over here as a full adult, I think.
We're doing a good job.
Thank you. I also think that you're doing a good job. So that means it feels like an extra compliment when you think I'm doing a good job.
Yeah.
I trust your opinion inherently.
I want to give you fireworks, but I don't remember how. I
don't.
think that this is the rave.
Yeah. Unce, unce, unce.